video, we're going to be going over how to find and buy the right car. And this will be a companion piece to an earlier video I did of how to sell your car, which I will link up here. And we're going to be doing this using my dad as an example. So right now we are shopping for a new daily driver for my dad. And we're going to go through and pick that car, research it, and eventually buy it. I'm not sure if we'll quite get to the buying part, but we have to look at step number one: what car do you want to buy? And specifically, you need to look at as many variables, as many different types of cars as you possibly can before even selecting what type of car you want to start looking for. So for example, my dad wants a medium-sized SUV to drive every day, but also have as a useful vehicle to pull things, to put things in the back, put people in the back, and use day to day and cover all of the bases. Right now, he's driving a 2008 Nissan Pathfinder. He's put like 350,000 miles on it, so it's time for something new. So we're gonna try and move up market and get to a nicer vehicle. So right now, what I have narrowed it down to is we need a medium-sized SUV. It has to be a luxury SUV, and it has to actually be a useful SUV. So looking in that target range, we're also not trying to spend a whole lot of money because it's just something he's going to drive back and forth to work, and he's going to use it a little bit more roughly. So we'll save the 911 and toys and stuff. That's where we'll spend the money, but on a daily, he's not looking to spend too much money. So right now, we're looking budget anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000. So looking in that market, for first generation Cayenne will cover all of our bases. But what we need to do once we pick that car, instead of just picking it and going out and start looking, we need to research that car and figure out, is it a car we actually want to buy? Is it reliable? Is it useful? Does it have all the features that we want? So you need to go through and read as many reviews about that car as you possibly can. Learn as much about that car as you possibly can. So step one, research a very wide range of cars. Step two, once you picked a car, research that car very thoroughly. Surprisingly, Wikipedia is actually a very good resource. It'll give you a whole article on the car. You can read through a bunch of information, and then the links at the bottom will send you to various sites of where they got that information. Car and Driver, Road and Track, Motor Trend, Kelly Blue Book. There's all sorts of different people that will review these cars, and you can read them to kind of get an idea of what is important to you and what's not. Maybe their complaints aren't things that bother you. Maybe the things that they praise are things that are important to you. So you need to go research the car. You also need to see what changed throughout the life of the car. It's very rare for a car to stay exactly the same all the way through its production cycle. So for example, the original Cayenne had a huge facelift in 2008. They completely changed the engine lineup. They became much more reliable. They fixed a lot of problems. The Cayenne was a brand new model when they released it. It was based on a Volkswagen chassis from the Touareg, but at the same time, it was a completely different vehicle from the Touareg, and it was a first-time outing for Porsche. And they made a ton of money off of the Cayenne. So when they did the facelift, a lot of things got a lot better. So that's where we're gonna focus our search, is 2008 to 2010. We will be getting a much better car for not a whole lot more money. We're still in that generation, so our price cap is pretty low, but we will be getting a much better car inside that generation. So that's something you need to figure out. A lot of cars are very different throughout the range, and you need to figure out, is that upgraded version actually an upgrade for you? Are the things that they changed, do they matter, or do they not? Because sometimes they don't. The Nissan GTR seems to be getting worse and worse the longer Nissan makes it, whereas other cars get better throughout their cycle. It just kind of depends. So now that we have narrowed down the years that we are looking for, a 2008 to 2010 Porsche Cayenne S, that has really narrowed our search down. It made it a lot easier for us. We're not just typing in SUV when we go to Facebook Marketplace. We're typing in Porsche Cayenne S, and then we're kind of trying to narrow it down by year. Now, one thing you need to think about is how much is this car going to cost? Will kind of decide where your best place of looking for the car is. So we found a car, we've narrowed it down. Step three, we're looking for the actual car. There's a lot of different options out there. Auto Tempest is really good for searching a lot of different places if the car you're looking for isn't very specific. You're not looking for specific features like a manual or an automatic, or certain trim levels or things like that. Auto Tempest is pretty good because you can only type in the title. So it'll cover a lot of ground, but it's also going to give you a lot of results to sift through. I prefer just going to each individual site, because if you go to Cars.com, Car Gurus, or Auto Trader, you can go through and save your specific search criteria. Go through, put everything in, save it as a search. It'll be linked in your profile, and then I save that page as a bookmark, put in my bookmark bar. I can click on the bookmark bar, click on my save search, and in 2 clicks, in about 10 seconds, I have everything pulled up exactly how I want it, and I can check that every single day to find the car that I'm looking for. So, you get to work in the morning, or you wake up and you're drinking your coffee and you're quickly checking your email. You can take 10 seconds, click on that, and check every morning to make sure that there's not a new car that is perfect for you. So obviously, you want to check as many places as possible. So check those 3 websites I mentioned. Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist are also good. eBay Motors is good for specific cars. I don't really like it because it's an auction, so odds of you getting to that car and seeing it before you actually put money down are pretty limited. But Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist, I think, are really great for cars that are $10,000 to $15,000 or less. If it's more than that, it's probably not going to be on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace, and if it is, it's kind of like, why is it there? If it's more expensive, it should be on some of the more legit websites. And like I said in my How to Sell a Car video, I'm surprised at the number of people that only list their car on one website instead of multiple. So there will be different lists of cars on different websites. Obviously, there will be some overlap, but you would be surprised. When searching for these cars, you need to kind of get an idea of how much the car is going to cost. So our budget, like I said, $10,000 to $15,000 is spot on for that car. There are some that are as cheap as $8,000, and there are some that are expensive as $20,000 if they're really good. But you need to kind of set a realistic budget, and you also need to figure out how far you're willing to travel. So obviously, the odds of finding a good deal are better if you have a wider search range and a longer period of time to search. If you don't have a lot of time and you're not willing to travel, you're going to end up paying more money, but you're not going to be traveling quite as far. It's a trade-off. I don't know where Kelley Blue Book in certain places like that get their how much it's supposed to cost, because I have never seen an accurate lineup. Kelley Blue Book is always like 10 to 20% under what I'm actually seeing things for sale for, and that's like the lowest end of the stick. So I don't know where they get those values, so don't necessarily go off of that. Don't go to somebody and say, well, Kelley Blue Book says this car is worth $8,000, and they're like, well, I'm selling it for $10,000, so you can buy it or not. But figure out your budget, figure out what's realistic. Maybe you pick a car and you find out, I can't afford that car. Maybe you say, oh, well, I only want to spend $8,000. Well, you're probably not going to find a good Cayenne S for $8,000. It's just not going to happen, unless you're willing to wait for a very long time for a good one to pop up. But once you have found the right car, you've taken your time, you found one that suits you, you then want to contact that person. So step 4, make contact. The rules for this are pretty simple. It's very similar to what I said in my selling video. Be nice, be patient, be understanding of the fact that, yeah, you might be really nice to them and they're a little grouchy back, and that might make you angry, but you need to kind of put that to the side, or they might be a little difficult to deal with, or they might be slow to respond. You need to just kind of let that slide off your shoulder and keep going, because if it's a really good car and it's something you want, you really don't want to miss on it because the person's an ass. Now, of course, if they're flaky and they're weird and they're giving off red flags, walk away. But if they seem like they're just being annoying or something like that, or they're a little different from you, maybe if you're trying to buy a car in New York and you're from the Midwest, you might not treat you quite as nicely as you would expect. You just need to let it slide off. It's a big purchase. You don't want to really let emotion get into this. For any car, a pre-purchase inspection is a good idea. It's only going to cost you $100, maybe $200, depending on how nice the car is and where you get it done. I think it's a really good investment. I did not get one done on my Mini because the car was pretty cheap. It was only $4,000. It's not that big of a deal. And even brand new, it wasn't that expensive. On my wife's car, on this Cayenne for my dad, on any other car I ever purchased, because they're going to be more expensive, I am going to get a pre-purchase inspection and have a professional mechanic look at it, top, bottom, throw it on the lift, look for all the things, especially if, for example, I took my wife's car to a BMW dealership he knows exactly what to look for. So I think it's a good idea, and it also kind of takes some of the burden off of you when you get there. You're not having to look the car over quite as thoroughly because somebody else has already done it for you. But you want to pick this person's brain. You want to ask them as many questions as you can. Why are you selling the car? How long have you had the car? How has it been? What did you use it for? Was it all city miles, highway miles? Do you have kids? Do they sit in the back seat? Figure out as much as you can about the car and things that have happened to the car. How well maintained it is. Do they have records? Has it ever been in an accident? You should definitely check the Carfax. If they don't provide it for you, which I feel like they probably should, they should just pay for it, and they can keep showing people the Carfax. I would just pay for it. Just pay for the Carfax if they refuse to. It's kind of a red flag if they don't, but if you really want the car, you can pay for the Carfax. If it comes back clean, you can continue forward. And if it doesn't come back clean, yeah, you're out a little bit of money, but you could have been out a lot more in the long run. So Carfax and a pre-purchase inspection, definitely a good idea. You have to be understanding that maybe people don't know the answer to your question. If I ask my mom a bunch of car questions about her car, she doesn't know. She just drives it back and forth, and it gets there, and that's all she needs to know. If something goes wrong, she takes it to the dealership, and they fix it. That's about all she needs to know, and that's fine for her. So you need to be understanding that maybe not everyone is a car person and understands the questions that you're asking. Once you have gotten all the information and you decide, I want to talk to this person, I want to go see this car, again, continue to be flexible. Depending on where you live, maybe you need a notary with you. Maybe if you're paying by a cashier's check from your bank, they'll want to call the bank to confirm, hey, they're giving me this check. Is this really in their account? Is this a real cashier's check? Can I give them the car? So you need to be considerate. You need to be flexible. You absolutely need to see the car in the daylight. Do not buy a car in the dark. It's also not quite as safe. Maybe they have one day a week off in the middle of the week. Maybe that doesn't line up for you for a couple weeks. You got to be flexible and willing to kind of work with it if you want a good deal and you want to get the right car. The more flexible you are, the more likely it is to eventually work out. So just take your time, eventually find a nice time that you can meet that, fills in with all of your requirements. You definitely want to meet in a nice, public, well-lit place in a safe part of town. Ideally, police stations make a great place to buy and sell cars. They might even have a designated section for you to meet in, but nobody's going to rob you at a police station. It's just not going to happen. If you have to meet them at your house, take somebody with you. Anytime I would take somebody with me. It's just a good idea to have a second set of hands there, somebody that's looking out for you, somebody that's watching your back, and of course somebody that can just offer a second opinion. So if you know somebody that knows a lot more about cars than you do, it's not a bad idea to take them along just to have a second set of eyes, a second set of ears, someone else to have for a second opinion on the car. So you've set up a time, now you need to actually drive and inspect the car. Driving it, you want to accelerate, you want to brake, you want to turn, you want to use every single thing on the car, every switch, every button, every feature, anything that's important to you, you want to turn it on. And I mean everything. It might be 95 degrees outside, you want to turn the heat on, you want to turn the heated seat on, heated steering wheel, all those things. You don't want to get to winter and find out that the heated seat doesn't work and you thought it did, but you didn't need to check it because it's a 95-degree day. Because it's better to find out now than it is later. If it's broken and you don't care because you know you can fix it, it can be a bargaining chip. And if it's broken and you can't fix it, then it's a reason to walk away. Which the big thing for this is the whole way through, you need to always be looking out for red flags, and you need to not get attached to a car if it's something that you should walk away from. If there's too many red flags and things just don't feel right, you need to be able to walk away from any car for any reason. If something is not right, you need to be able to walk away. So check your emotions at the door. Try to use your brain on this one. It will definitely help you avoid a poor investment. So now that you've test driven the car, inspected the car, and you've kind of decided, hey, I want to buy this car, before any of this, you need to make sure you have the funds to do so and you have it set up. I would prefer not to be walking around with $20,000 in cash in my pocket. It's just not safe. It's not a good idea. You could lose it, you could get robbed, any number of bad things could happen. If you have a cashier's check that is made out to that person, it's not going to be an issue. You can also do a money wire, which, of course, is always an option. It just kind of depends on how much money you have. how comfortable you are working with your banking system and their bank and whatnot, and whatever the other person is comfortable with. So you can just have money wired from your bank directly to their account. However you want to do it, just try to avoid having cash on you if you can avoid it. And if you're going to have cash, don't lead on to them that you have cash. Leave it in your car, leave it locked in the glove box, and make kind of like sly comments of like, yeah, once we see the car and decide to want to buy it, we can run over my bank, I can pull out the money real quick and we can pay for it, and lo and behold, it's in your car. Just try to be careful, try to be smart, try to avoid getting ripped off at any place that you possibly can, which quickly brings us to the side of dealerships. I haven't dealt with dealerships a whole lot. I try to avoid them as much as I possibly can because they will try to scam you every single way that they can. So again, be prepared to walk away from a car. If they try to hit you with like $1,000 service fee or a $500 service fee and you're like, I'm not paying that, and they say, we're not giving you the car, then walk away. If it's really something that you absolutely have to have and you're willing to pay the fee, that's fine. But if it's something you're not willing to pay, then walk away. Don't let on that you're paying with cash, especially at a dealership, because they're not going to make any money off of you through the finance department. So if they ask you first thing when you get there, hey, are you paying with cash? Or are you going to finance with us? Just be like, I don't know. I don't know yet. Like, I'll look at your options when, we're down the line. Don't lie to them, but at the same time, don't give them any information they can use against you up front. Just try to keep it vague. Just try to stay focused on the actual car shopping part, and you can deal with that at the back end. If they have a good financing department and it looks like it's going to be a good deal, of course you can use that. If the one through your bank is better, or another loaner, or if you have the cash, do whatever is best for you, but try to nail down a good deal. This is the price I'm paying, and then you can come in with your cash. But the biggest thing through this whole process, as you can kind of see, is knowledge. Of step 1, research the class. Step 2, research the car once you pick it. Step 3, research the market and find the best car in the market. Once you get there, you want to have the best research on what is specifically wrong with this car. What goes wrong with this type of car? What are specific things I should look for? Before you go look at a car, if you're going to look at the car on Saturday morning, you should spend all Friday night researching that car, researching checklists that other people have made, watching videos that other people made of these are the top 10 things that go wrong with a Porsche Cayenne S or whatever. You want to research things as you go through this process because you want to know as much as you possibly can to avoid anything that's going to cost you money in the long run. You can't avoid problems that you don't know about. So knowledge is the key to this whole process. Being patient, keeping your emotions out of it, and just trying to be as neutral and grounded as you possibly can, and eventually make a wise decision in the end and hopefully come out with a great car. So of course, if you have any questions about this process or anything that I can be more clear on, you can feel free to drop those down below. Right now we are still in the shopping phase for my dad's car. So I am looking at cars all the time. There are a lot of great options out there, but I haven't actually gone to visit any one of the cars. And I might go over that a little bit more when we do purchase one. But of course, if you guys have any questions, you can feel free to drop those down below. Hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys next week.